Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about knife brands and brand loyalty. A lot of fanboys out there. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here. So first off, before I start the video, I just want to say that I have the flu and my tonsils are swollen. They're like the size of golf balls and it's extremely uncomfortable, but I am home, so I might as well make the video. I like posting every day. I am dedicated to the craft. So even though I have the flu and this stinks, I'm here making a video for you guys. I'm actually making this video because of a message I got this morning. Someone was asking if I could do a top 5 favorite knife brands video. And it got me thinking, this is a question I get often, very often. I've gotten this question thousands of times over the years, way before even YouTube, even on the forums. Inevitably, when you're talking knives, someone will say, hey, what's the best or what's your favorite? And there's no simple answer for that. You know, some people, it's easier for them to say, oh yeah, this is the best, or oh yeah, this is my favorite. Sometimes it's not as easy as my favorite brand. Some people have a couple different favorite brands. And then people like me, there is no favorite. I love all knives. The answer I usually give to someone, what is the best knife? What is the, your favorite knife, whatever. It's always what's in my pocket when I need it. When I need a knife, whatever's on me, as long as it's sharp, that's my favorite, that's the best. It's that simple. I really do have an appreciation for all cutlery. There's certainly a market for cheap knives. Some people say, why do you waste $5 on that? Why do they make cheap knives? Why do they make knockoffs? Why do they do this? Because people are buying them. Simple fact, there's a lot more people who like knives and buy them and use them that don't spend a lot of money on them than people who do. The people who are buying $500 knives, very, very small portion of the knife community. Okay, I'm not talking about just YouTube, I'm not talking about just the forums. The knife community as far as people who buy and use knives, period. You're far more likely to be the guy going to Walmart spending $30 on a, M16 from CRKT than you are to be the guy buying the Strider, or the Sebenza or something along those lines. We see it more often on YouTube because it's a concentrated part of the community. And the gear community, here on YouTube and in social media, people tend to show some of the better stuff, and then everyone, wants that stuff, and it becomes like, I don't know, idolized, These certain knives, certain companies, certain people, certain makers, they just become like, this amazing stuff, and that's what people want. And either they have it, and they agree it's the best ever, or people don't have it, and they just assume it's the best ever. Great example of that is the Sebenza. I told you guys I wanted one for 10 years. It took me 10 years to finally get one. And when I did, as amazing as it was, it's just a knife, And even though it is an extremely well-designed knife, at the end of the day, I open it up and it cuts just like my $5 knife. Yeah, of course, the blade steel is better. It's going to stay sharper longer. It can literally get sharper than some of the cheaper knives that I have. But it's just a knife. There's so much allure that goes into these knives. I would guarantee you that if there was no more brands on any knives and no one talked about brands, it would be a whole different game. Knives and knife collecting and using, it's just like every other hobby out there. Look at tools. People who are dedicated to just buying and using snap-on tools. If you don't have snap-on tools, it's garbage. What about the car communities? People are into Mustangs. Hey, if it's not a Mustang, it's garbage. Knives are no exception to this. There's going to be people who are going to be, dedicated to certain brands. They're going to be fanboys. Now, the one consistency I do see is that, generally speaking, the newer you are to knives, the more likely you are to say, hey, this is the best brand, or, this is my favorite company. The more diversity you have, year after year of knife collecting and using and trying different types of brands and stuff like that, you're less likely to say this is the best or this is my favorite, because now you're torn. You're saying, hey, you know what? I thought this company made the best knives, and then I got a knife from this company, and it's just as nice. At the end of the day, you're just buying different designs. Of course, blade steel, tolerances, those things do matter. You know what I mean? They really do, because that's where you're getting your actual performance. Whereas, like, let's say, again, with cars, Mustang, Corvette, you're going to pick whatever you think looks cooler. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if you had a modded Mustang that had 500 horsepower, yeah, it's going to perform better than, let's say, a Corvette that had 350 horsepower. So there is a physical performance difference. So you can say definitively this knife is better than this knife because of, its performance. But, what it really comes down to is the different designs. People like different knife companies because they're putting out different types of designs that appeal to them. CRKT, Boker, Kershaw, Cold Steel, Spyderco, Benchmade. These just happen to be 6 random knives they grabbed because they're completely different companies. And these are knives I've been using. Eventually go do reviews on a few of these. But let's just talk about these briefly. This is not representing every knife company out there. There's obviously dozens more. You know, some people love that they're not being represented in this video. My apologies. But these just happen to be the ones I grabbed. But let's say, first off, Benchmade, right? What is Benchmade? When you say Benchmade to me, what do I think? I think huge company. I think quality. I think, you know, made in Oregon, made in the USA. I think Axis lock, okay? So that innovation is something that's synonymous with this company. You know, those are the things that I like. Those are positives about Benchmade, right? That's why you may gravitate towards that company and their designs, right? Spyderco. What do I think when you say Spyderco? Well, I think innovation, you know. I think OGs of the knife world. Do you guys know that Spyderco is the first company to create a pocket clip? Okay, a pocket clip, something that's on pretty much every modern day folding knife, right? It's ridiculous. Some people don't know that. They have a lot of different innovation. But besides that, Spyderco, again, high quality, made in America, in this case, Colorado. Just like Benchmade, that's why Benchmade and Spyderco are both, you know, very popular companies because they do make high-end cutlery that's made in the US. You know, different designs, you know, some funky knives. That's what I like about Spyderco. Innovation, a variety, tons and tons of different models. Cold steel, you know, some people are hardcore cold steel fans. What do I think when you say cold steel? I think Lynn Thompson. Lynn Thompson is a character and a great marketing director. Man, no one sells knives like Lynn sells knives, and he sells me every single time. When I watch those proof videos and stuff, I love them. I absolutely love them. I grew up watching those type videos, you know what I mean? Some people think they're mall ninja knives. I don't agree. You know, it's just an opinion. By the way, my opinions don't mean anything more than your opinions. You could disagree with me. It's totally fine. The diversity is what makes, you know, knife collecting awesome, like other hobbies, is that not everyone agrees on the same things. It makes it fun and exciting, right? But yeah, cold steel, huge. That's what I think of huge folding knives, right? There's not a lot of companies out there making, you know, huge folders like cold steel, so they have that market. Right? The triad lock, great innovation. You don't see that on other knives. That might be one of the reasons why you gravitate towards their stuff. Just hard use, ridiculously hard use. Kershaw, right? Variety, affordability. That's why people like them. People who love Kershaw but want to step it up a notch, that's where ZT comes in, right? It's basically high-end Kershaws. Boker. Boker also has a ton of variety. The Boker Plus line, tons and tons of different knives, all pretty affordable and such diverse knife designs. Really cool. They work with tons of different makers out there, and you get a lot of diversity, and they make a pretty good knife for the money. And then CRKT on the end here, right? Always been a fan of CRKT. Why? Affordability. Some people criticize them because their blade steels aren't good enough. Good enough for who? If you have a CRKT knife and you keep it sharp and you maintain it, it works. Is it going to hold an edge as good as, let's say, this 20 CV on the Benchmade on the end here? No, it's not. But the price reflects that. This is a much more expensive knife than this. What I love about all these different knife companies out there constantly putting out all this new work is the variety. I love it, right? Especially if you're a knife collector and you go through a lot of different knives like I do. I want the diversity, you know? Sometimes I am in the mood for some new Benchmade that comes out, you know? Sometimes I want something a little bit cheaper. I want something more affordable, you know? CRKT, Boker, Kershaw, all three companies putting out a ton of variety, all affordable. All right, so I'm gonna take a minute to talk about brand loyalty and being a fanboy, okay? It's basically the same thing. If you're a fanboy, it means you are loyal to one specific brand. Now, there could be a multitude of different reasons as to why. Generally speaking, it's people who, you know, bought one or two or maybe a handful of knives from one particular company. They really like them, and they're just dedicated to that company. That's it. They're not really willing to try other brands. It doesn't matter. They found what they liked. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, if you're buying knives and enjoying them, hey, kudos to you. You know, that's what it's all about, really. If you're enjoying your knives, that's all that matters. And who cares about other people's opinions, right? But if you want my honest opinion, I just think people are limiting themselves. Here's a very common question I'll get. People will be, you know, buying cheap knives for years. They'll watch videos, they'll read the forums and stuff, and they're like, all right, I want to get a good quality knife. It happens all the time. I'm tired of cheap knives. I want a quality knife. They'll go out and they'll buy a Spyderco paramilitary. Oh my God, I love it. This is amazing. You know, I can't believe I was wasting my time on cheap knives. And they'll come to me and they'll ask, they'll say, hey, I got a paramilitary, I love it. What's my next Spyderco going to be? You know, which one should I get next? And every single time I will tell them, don't buy a Spyderco. And not because I don't like Spyderco, but it's because I would love to see them try different stuff. And Spyderco is just an example. It could be anything. It could be a Benchmade. Hey, I finally got a nice knife. I bought a Benchmade 940. It's awesome. I love it. Which Benchmade should I get next? Don't get a Benchmade. You know, if you're new to knives, or generally new, every time you buy a knife, in my opinion, it should be a totally different brand. This way you get a little representation of what every company is offering. That's how I like to do it. It's not maybe the best answer. It's not a right or wrong answer, but that's always my suggestion. If you buy a knife that you love from a company, try a different company. If you don't like them, you know, and that's the other thing too, is some people aren't willing to or don't want to like do the trading thing or selling it and stuff like that. So I understand that aspect of it too. You know, some people, if you buy a knife and you don't like it, you're kind of stuck with it because they don't want to or know how to sell them or whatever. So I understand that. If that's the case, then yeah, that's fine. You like one company and then just stick with it. But yeah, I mean, diversity. I always suggest to people to try a different company you've never tried before. People say, hey, you know, I'm looking for a new knife. I don't know what to get. Totally lost. What should I try? And I'll always suggest the same thing. Try a knife company you've never tried before. Who knows? Maybe you'll love it. I've gotten great feedback from that. People who have gotten their first Spyderco, they tried a Benchmade or they tried a Cold Steel or whatever the case may be, a ZT, and they're like, oh my God, you know, this is a great knife too. So all I'm saying is that you shouldn't pigeonhole yourself to one company. You should spread out a little bit and see what you like. The more knife companies that you actually get to try in your lifetime, the more diversity you get, the more you really get an honest opinion as to which companies you like and don't like. You know what I mean? Certain people don't like certain companies either from bad experience with their knives or they just don't like the design or whatever. But a lot of those opinions are created not from use, but from what other people say. I mean, people have a lot of influence talking about knife stuff, you know? And that's the other thing too is some people who watch my videos, they'll say like, oh, you didn't like this knife, so I didn't get it. Thanks for saving me the money. And I'll tell them like, you know, that's my opinion. You might love that knife, you know? So don't take everything to heart of what people say. You know, have your own opinions. Don't be afraid of being honest with yourself. You know, if you get a Sebenza and you think that it's like no big deal, that's cool. No one's gonna hate you for it. You know, there's too many followers out there, too many people that just go by what other people say. If you're the popular person and you say this, then all of a sudden it becomes law? I don't think so. There's plenty of people out there who disagree with my opinions on different knives and stuff, and I'm not right, I'm not wrong, they're not right, they're not wrong, it's an opinion. You know, there's certain things you could say, certain things that are black and white, like, you know, S30V is a better steel overall, better than 440C. You know, obviously every different blade steel has different, you know, attributes. They may be good or bad for what you're using it for. Sometimes a cheaper, softer steel is the better option, believe it or not. You know, so many people get so caught up in blade steels and like, oh man, if the knife is $100 and it doesn't have this on it, oh my God, people like flipping out. It's crazy. It always makes me laugh sometimes because people get too serious about this stuff. As far as blade steels go, just an off-topic thing, if you don't know how to sharpen knives, I get it. Trust me, I get it. Okay, if you're going to spend $150 on a knife and it's going to go dull and it's going to stay dull because you don't know how to sharpen it, then yeah, you don't want a cheap steel. You want a very nice, you know, high-performance steel. But for the people out there who know how to maintain their knives, they're rocking $20 knives because when they get dull, they just sharpen them again. It's not really a big deal to them. So there's many different types of knife owners and knife users out there. But like I said, I mean, the blade steel thing is like, it's crazy to me. People get so fixated on these steels. Now I understand too, if you use your knives often and you do have a specific steel that you like, a preference, that's cool. That's your preference, you know? And some steels do obviously have much better performance than others. And obviously everyone wants a knife that's going to stay sharper longer. You know, that's not debatable there. It's just, it's a give and take. You know, it's always a give and take. You want to buy a $20 knife, you can't expect your blade to last, you know, a year of constant use without being sharpened. I guess what I'm saying here is, number one, it's okay to be a fanboy, but you owe it to yourself to try different stuff, to really know if that company that you love so much is the best to you. You know, how do you know? If you don't try the other stuff, how do you really know? I don't think anyone could definitively say X brand is the best brand. You can't say it. Best to you, maybe. The most preferred to yourself, sure. But there is no best. There's no best knife company. There's just favorites. You can have favorites, that's fine. But for me, they're all my favorite. I love them all. I really do enjoy $5 knives just as much as I do $500 knives, just for different reasons. That's all. When I'm using a $5 knife and it's nice and sharp and it's getting the job done, I'm thinking, wow, this is only $5 and it's working. When I'm using the $500 knife, I'm not thinking, wow, this is only $500, it's working great. I'm thinking, man, this thing better work great. It was $500. You know? If anything, you get more disappointment in the $500 knife because it didn't meet your expectation than the $5 knife, right? When you buy a $5 knife, you think it's a total piece of crap. It can only surprise you. It can only get better with use because you're thinking, wow, you know, I thought this was a piece of junk and it's actually working. But when you spend $500 on a knife or whatever it is, let's say, you know, $200, you already have an expectation of that being a great knife, and it may or may not be, you know? A lot of times the price, it's not just materials. We've talked about this in the past too. It's, you know, the higher end materials on knives aren't that much more expensive. There are different factors like, you know, wearability on machinery and stuff like that that factor into the cost of making the knife and stuff. But just like every other hobby, just like cars or whatever, sometimes you're paying a little extra for that name. It's just how it is, you know? But at the end of the day, if you're buying a knife and you're loving it, that's all that matters. You know, but there's no reason to say this company stinks. I see it too much. I see it too often. People in the comments, you know, hey, that knife company stinks. They make junk. No, they don't. You just don't like them. But there's plenty of people who do. If the company's in business, it's because they're selling knives. People are buying them. People are enjoying them. That can be said for any company out there. Okay, from the cheap all the way to the elite. So it just comes down to preference. Now that being said, for the comments in this video, I want you to tell me what knife company you don't like and why. All right, be very specific as to why. And remember, your opinion isn't wrong, it's just your opinion. I'm just curious. I'm curious why, and most times people will say like, you know, Gerber, oh, they make cheap knives, or CRK, they make cheap knives. Yeah, they make cheap knives, that's what they do. You can't compare a Gerber to a Sebenza. You can't do it. They're not in the same realm. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't, you know, compare a Corvette to a Ford Fiesta. They serve different purposes, you know? So, you know, just like you may say, hey, yeah, your cheap knife is not going to have the performance of my expensive knife, but at the same time, the person with the cheap knife is laughing at you because they didn't spend much on their knife and you did. So everyone has an opinion. No one's opinions are wrong, you know? Be polite in the comments, but I'd love to hear what company you don't like and why. I don't have that company. I like every knife company out there, some more than others, but every knife company has specific knives I like and don't like too. You know, so even some of the best companies out there, there's certain knives that I'm just totally not interested in for a variety of reasons. But anyway, looking forward to the comments, and that's it. I'm going to take some medicine. I'll see you guys later. Take care.